Good morning, guys. I'm sitting here at the table. I just come out of my tanning bed, so I may look a little red. I don't know. I've got me something to drink right here. It's a yummy chocolate protein drink. So I'm going to tell y'all this morning how me and Papa met. Okay. I grew up in Beaumont, but when I went to started school, we moved to a little place called Spurger, and that's where I spent grade 1 through grade 8. And when I got in junior high, I played basketball. And there was a boy, C.L. Ratcliffe. He was way ahead of us in school, but he was a absolutely awesome basketball player. That's all Spurger really had was basketball, and so basketball was almost like Friday Night Lights, only instead of football, it was basketball, and everybody knew him, everybody loved him. But if we were short of referees, sometimes he would referee the junior high games. He was funny. He was extremely good looking. Everybody loved him. So he went into the Marine Corps as soon as he finished high school. Of course, he was stationed in California. Well, it was only a short time after that that we moved to California. And I don't know, my dad had worked with CL's oldest brother before we left Spurger. They worked at the East Texas pulp and paper mill. So anyway, we're in California now. I'm just going into high school. I guess I don't know, 15 years old. And my dad gets a call from CL's brother, Jeff Ratcliffe, and he told my dad that their mom had passed away, and CL was just finishing up with boot camp, and he wanted him to try, if he could, to find some way to get in touch with CL so he wouldn't be totally by himself when he heard the news about his mom, because it was very, very unexpected. So we loaded up and drove down to the Marine Corps base. My dad made a lot of calls that morning. I don't remember what all he went through to find out exactly where CL was located. But my dad went into the building and it seemed like he was there forever. Oh my gosh, when he came out, he had CL with him. And they'd only given him this weekend. They gave him the weekend, then he had to be back Monday to sign in, and then he was going to be able to fly to Texas for his mom's funeral. Anyway, when I saw CL again, it was like he wasn't that skinny little high schooler that I just, everybody was so in love with. He was like this more mature Marine. I don't know. And my mom sat in the back seat. CL got up front with my dad, and they talked, and I probably hung on his every word. I don't know. And he spent the weekend with us. Mom made a place in the garage. We kind of walled it in with these real pretty curtains, and she put 2 twin beds out there, and she put a dresser. And it was really a cute little place inside the garage, so that he would have a bed to sleep in when he came. Then also, my mom had a friend, I think her name was Geneva Phillips, and she had a son, Charlie Joe, that went into the Marines about the same time that CL did, maybe a year later, because Charlie Joe was a year younger. But she said, Pat, I'm going to give Charlie Joe all of your information, so take care of him. So that's why Mom put the 2 twin beds in the garage so that Charlie Joe could have a place and CL could have a place. So they would, after that, show up on some weekends, sometimes together, sometimes not together. And we just did family things. And we did so many family things with CL. Going to Irvine Park, riding the double bikes, going to Santa's Village and playing in the snow. In California, where we live down south in Huntington Beach, there was lots of things to do. I can't tell you how many times we went to Knott's Berry Farm and a couple of times to Disneyland. And if Charlie Joe wasn't there, then it would just be me and CL and my two brothers. And we did so much stuff, laughing, joking. Then he got sent to Vietnam. And I don't know I cannot give you dates. For my 16th birthday, I got a Sweet 16 card, and it had come from Vietnam. CL had sent me that for my birthday, all the way from Vietnam. And I guess, I had little tingly feelings when I thought about him, and I guess he had little tingly feelings too. I guess there was something growing there. But I would write to him and he would write back, just, friendly little letters. And then he came home shortly before my 17th birthday. And by then, I was dating. You have to think he'd been in Vietnam for, I think, a little over, maybe 13 months. Anyway, I started dating when I turned 16, and I went out and stuff, and I had boyfriends. But when CL came back, it was, I didn't want to date anybody else. I didn't want to see anybody else. I had kind of a steady boyfriend, and I broke up with him. And the first date CL and I went on, just me and him, because I was dating now. I didn't have to take my brothers along everywhere we went. We went to a drive-in movie and we got pizza, and I'm sitting there on my side of the car, prim and proper, and he went to the concession stand and got pizza and brought it back, and he said, "Here's pizza." And I said, "Okay, I don't care for any." And he goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I don't know, why?" And he said, "Well, we've been so many places together, and you laugh and you giggle and you eat, and we've eaten pizza together. We've shared the same carton of ice cream together, and now all of a sudden this is a date, so you don't want to eat pizza?" And I said, "Well, I really don't want any." And I guess in my mind, all these aspects of little girl growing up with this hero dude, and now here he is, and there's no one around, and my feelings were kind of, anyway, it was funny. So we had a couple of dates after that. When I turned 17, he brought me roses, and in June we had, he was going to be there and pick me up on Saturday afternoon. Guys, you have to think too, there was lots of times when I would drive him back to the bus stop. I would keep his car. And he asked me this weekend, when he left Sunday night, he said, "Keep my car." And I had gotten fired from a job, so I didn't work anymore. I said, "No, I won't need the car until I find another job." He had a Mustang. It was a brand new one. So I didn't keep the car. And then Saturday morning, I'm anticipating, our date. Usually he got there about 4 o'clock. And my uncle came, and I was in the front yard with Mom and Dad, and he asked me to go in the house. And I knew something must be wrong, and I said, why would I go in the house? And he had a newspaper with him. And he said, "I just want to talk to your Mom and Dad about something." And he had read in the paper that C.O. Ratcliffe, 22 years old, had been killed in a car accident. And so Dad come in and immediately called his brother, because we thought that had to be a mistake. And Jeff said no, that was true. They had just gotten word. It had happened like early Saturday morning in the early hours. And what he had done, he had gone to the airport with a friend to pick up this friend's girlfriend, and then he dropped them off at their apartment, and he was headed back to the base. And people around that witnessed the accident said he was driving normal, and it looked like he just went to sleep and barely hit the posts that divide the roads. His car wasn't all that messed up, but what happened, Seal was very broad-shouldered. He's a Marine. Anyway, the motor had come up and crushed his chest. So, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that it happened. I thought they'd gotten the wrong person. So we threw everything together and we went home for his funeral. And it was him. It wasn't a mistake. But then I wasn't worried because I knew God would bring him back. It was a test for me. It was some kind of a test. God was testing my faith. And when we got back home, everything was just different. I felt no joy. I would lay in my room and I would lay on the floor and I would cry. And I would tell Jesus, why? Why did you do this? You know, I did everything my mom and dad asked me to do. I respected them. I loved them. I cleaned the house. I took care of Randy. Why would God take this from me? And I did that for a while. And it was summer, so I didn't have to go to school. And I would still swim and go through the normal things, but my heart, I was like dying on the inside. And then when I realized God wasn't going to bring him back, I said, Lord, if you're not going to bring him back, then you have to send someone else, because I can't stand it. I literally cannot stand it. I find no happiness in anything. And you go through the everyday things that you have to do, and it's just wasn't the same. Well, one Sunday morning, we were getting ready for church. There was a knock at the door, and it was Charlie Joe, and that's basically probably the first time I'd seen him since CL had passed. And he had a couple of guys with him, and he was just coming to get some clothes, because remember, he had clothes there in the garage in his chest where him and CL would stay sometimes. So he just come to get his clothes, and he introduced his two friends, and I don't know, there was just something about, this is Gene. We call him Spastic because he's kind of crazy. And I don't know, we just took like a interest in each other. And then he was on his way to see a girlfriend, Gene was, and they just brought Charlie Joe to pick up some clothes. So, you know, I was kind of excited a little bit, but he's off to see his girlfriend, so it's no big deal. So then Sunday afternoon, they came back. And Charlie Joe said, you know, they just thought they'd take a swim in the pool and hang around for a little while. So that was awesome. So me and Mom go out and we look at Gene's dog tags, because they'd taken their dog tags off to go swimming, and we saw he had the same blood type and that he was a Baptist and all this and this stuff. You know, me and my mom just being giddy and silly. And so anyway, they left that night, and he called me that night later and asked, did I want to go out the next weekend on a double date, if I could get somebody for Charlie. So I said, okay. So we went on a couple of dates with Charlie and my friend Kathy. Then we went on a couple of dates with Charlie and my friend Linda. And then all of a sudden, it was just me and Papa. And I can tell you that one of the funniest things, and this is our very first date, I don't like country music. I cannot stand country music. And I like a light rock. And I used to go, we would go dancing on the pier at Huntington Beach. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of country music going on. I was just like the rock music. So the first date that Gene took me on, he got tickets to the Grand Ole Opry. And he was so excited. The Grand Ole Opry was coming to Long Beach. And it was Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty. I don't remember who all. And he was so excited. And I was, okay. I knew who they were because my mom and dad listened to country music. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't going to go well. I don't even like country music, but I got dressed and I sat through the Grand Ole Opry and I clapped. And later when we got in the car, he said, wasn't that awesome? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, I do not like country music. So that was kind of crazy. But that was our first date to the Grand Ole Opry. And then maybe our next date was when he tried to take me to the place I thought was a beer joint. And eventually, a couple of dates later, we did go into that place, and they did have delicious spaghetti. And I taught Papa how to roll his spaghetti on a tablespoon, because they give you spoons when you order spaghetti. They give you these big spoons, and it's for rolling. So I taught him how to do that, and I don't know, it was just a little while later that he said, why don't we get married? And I said, okay. And I knew in my heart God had sent him to my door. God took away something from me. I don't know why. Theo was a good guy. I never heard him cuss. Even in ball games when they would get heated, I never saw him get mad. I never heard him raise his voice. He had a good mama and a good daddy. I don't know why God didn't want me with him. I don't know. I didn't know. And all my life, I guess I've thought sometimes when that mind, things pop to your mind, and I think, why, Lord? Why did you take him from me? He was a good guy. I know in my heart he was a good guy. He had 2 interviews. He would soon be out of the Marine Corps, and he had 2 interviews with the California Highway Patrol. And it was a pretty sure shot that when he got out, he was going to be going into the Highway Patrol. Maybe God didn't want me in California. I don't know. I would have followed him anywhere. But you've got to think back. I was 17 years old. I love God with all my heart, and I loved him. But, I've always, thanks to my 2 grandmothers and my daddy, and maybe my mother a little bit, I know God controls everything. There's nothing you can do to get away from God. There's nothing you can do to change God's plan. So I want to say to everyone, when you're making your plan, say, God, what is my plan? And God gave me this short time with this man, and then he took that away. And to this day, I don't know why. I just know he wanted me with Gene Morrow. He wanted me in Plum Grove, Texas. Maybe he wanted me to sit here today and make this video for any of you that are in a bad place and don't know what you're going to do, and your heart is being ripped out, whether it's the loss of a child or a parent or a boyfriend, a fiance, what, just don't get, if you have to get mad at God, get mad at him, because he understands that you're going to be angry. And then when the anger wears off, then you're going to realize that God's the only thing you have. There's nothing else permanent in our life except for God. Anyway, Papa and I have been married for 56 years. God brought me back to a farm. Also, God brought me back to within an hour drive of my grandparents. So I got to be there with my grandmothers, and my one grandmother came and stayed with me when all 4 of my children was born. My other grandmother didn't drive, but I managed to see her at least a couple of times a month. I was back with my whole family. Maybe that's what God wanted. I don't know. Maybe God wants me to tell you, trust God in every situation. Without him, we have nothing. I don't know how to say that strong enough. Without God, there is nothing. If you don't believe in God, then I don't know how you live without having that to hold on to. I'm going to finish now. Like I say, God sent my husband to my front door. So if you need a husband, you tell God and he will send him to your front door. I can say that until I met Papa, I never saw anyone lose their temper because my family's all mild. And Papa has a temper, and I didn't realize they were such bad words until I heard Jean Morrow say them when we'd been married just a short length of time, and we've had funny stories. We didn't have a honeymoon, but I flew to Texas to meet him, and we got married in the church where he'd grown up. And when we were leaving, it had been raining, and he drug me through the mud, and I got mud all over my white dress. So the place that he was going to take me was a really nice walk-in hotel, and I said, I'm not going in there with mud on my dress. So then we ended up coming back to Cleveland, and we stayed at a truck stop that night. We had hamburgers for our dinner. And then we left 2 days later to go to North Carolina. So I guess you can say our honeymoon was our whole 18 months in North Carolina, because that's how long we spent there. And boy, did I get some lessons on what real life with a real man was all about. And I can tell you that the first night we stopped in North Carolina, he was supposed to be at Camp Lejeune on such and such a time that first morning. Well, I come out behind him in my little skimpy nightie, and I shut the hotel door, and we couldn't get back in. And we were right on the road, and there were trucks honking at us, and I was freezing because it was March and it was cold there, and Papa had to walk down in his underwear down to the management's office and wake them up, and so we could get another key, because that was pretty funny too. But anyway, that is my story. That is part of my life, and that is how God sent me my husband, which we have been married, like I say, 56 years, so there must be something solid there. All right, I love you guys.